Okay, so let's look at this. Ghostwriting, yes, good question. What is ghostwriting? Ghostwriting is when your book, your name appears nowhere near the book. So let's call Harry over here, imaginary person. Harry comes to me, or is referred to me somehow, and says, I've got to write a book, or I want to write a book. I don't know where to start. I've got a few ideas. Fred might come and say, I've written 20,000 words. I'm not sure if it's okay. Can you read it and tell me what you think? But Harry comes, and I might spend some, well, obviously I'll spend some time with Harry face-to-face or phone. I'll look at what Harry's documentation is on what he does and what he believes and have some good conversations with them, do a chapter outline, and then I literally write the book. So it might be, and it's usually the process where I write a chapter, I send it for approval, get it back, send about 5,000 words at a time, work out initially what they want the book to look like. So my books, How to Master Networking, is around 25,000 words, and that's around 150 pages in a A5 book, which looks a bit like this. And this is what they call an airport read. You can read it in roughly an hour and a half, 2 hours on a flight. And it's a good size if you're just wanting to cover one topic in an area. Some people want very thick books. They want more sort of academic things with lots of references and all of that. It just really depends. But what I sort of specialise in is business books. That's pretty much it. And part of it is making sure that you have the jargon, and this is part of reinvention, making sure that you've got the jargon. I have one lovely client, she calls me her ghostwriter, but really she's a corporate client who puts a lot of articles on LinkedIn and does a lot of articles for her team. And she sends them to me and says, will you just fix this? And I explain to her how I write and the model that I use. And she takes it on board. I send her this, she looks at that, she says, oh, you've changed this, you've changed that. And she says, and so the more I work with her, the less I change because she takes on board my suggestions. And she said to me the other day, you're going to do yourself out of a job soon. And I said, that's what I like to do. Because if I'm ghostwriting for someone, I involve them in getting the ISBN number, getting the book quotes, getting the printing quotes, getting all of that, because that to me, it's no point just, like a lot of companies do, they don't tell you anything, they keep it all a real mystery, whereas my thought is share the knowledge and you won't need me again, but you'll refer other people to me. So all of my work's referral based. That person can go on if they want to and do their own book. They'll still touch base and I'm project management for it. But basically your name, to answer what is a ghostwriter, ghostwriter is a person who writes things for other people, but my name goes nowhere near the book. So and a lot of high-profile people have ghostwriters. Sometimes they get a byline, but most of the time they don't. It's just the person's name. So, yep.
So, Robyn,
Patrick.
My name's John Howard. I'm Prime
Yes.
Minister of the country. I want to write a book, but I'm not really good at it. So,
Or you don't have time.
Or I don't have time. So I ring Robyn Henderson, and she takes all the details. Actually writes the book.
I probably wouldn't want. Oh yes. That's how it works, Patrick. I probably wouldn't write it specifically. John Howard, the Prime Minister, ex-Prime Minister of Australia. I wouldn't write that one because I'm not. I like to write things I'm interested in.
Yes.
That's because I think, and something that I know something about. No point writing. I don't want to spend hours doing research. I want to go, oh yeah, negotiation, fantastic. I like this.
Right, okay.
So at the moment I'm helping someone revamp an earlier book that was written in the 90s about negotiation. Very interesting, very knowledgeable guy. And one of the things I'm doing is going through, and he had examples the other day of TV shows and saying, oh, Columbo and X-Files. And Mulder and Scully out of X-Files, and I just put a little note there going, these are so not the TV shows today. NCIS is the second highest show. It was written by an Australian guy. He was so successful there. Then they did NCIS LA, NCIS New Orleans, and Hawaii Five-0 is the #1, believe it or not, drama in the world. Because I'm a film buff and a movie buff, so I know a lot of information about film. And I said, so if you're going to talk about this, talk about NCIS and talk about Scorpion and Walter O'Brien from Scorpion and how quirky he is. That's 2016. And when I met with him the other day, he said, "Oh, I see you don't like stuff. You don't like Mulder and Scully." And I said, "No, I just want the book to be now, because 10 years from now they'll go, what's Scorpion and what's NCIS, but they won't go, what's Columbo." So what we've got to realise in our lives, sometimes something that was so major for us, and we, like 10 years from now, Shell Harbour will look back at this amalgamation or not as, oh, that was a blimp, but at the moment it's a mountain. And an example of this, someone I helped not ghost their book, but assist them just to find the publisher to take it on board, was a beautiful man who has written, he'd been a police officer for 40 years. He was the whistleblower, the first whistleblower in the Fitzgerald inquiry, which was about police corruption in Queensland in the 80s. And he was the whistleblower, and then he went back and worked with the people. So he was very high-ranking, beautiful man, and he'd spent many years doing this. Cut a very long story short, I was networked to him. He had 180,000 words, and he was writing it for his grandchildren. He said, "I want my children and grandchildren to know what I've done with my life." And he said, "This gentleman told me to write a book 10 years ago, and I was able to find that man for him." And that man was connected to a publisher. A long story short, Colin Dillon, and the book is called, I'll think of its name. I'll come back to you with the name of the book, but it was published a couple of weeks ago, and Colin said, "Oh, I wouldn't have done this without you." And I said, "No, they've taken 180,000 words and culled it down to 80. So that's a very big editing job, but that was what was done." Colin Dillon, his name is, a wonderful man, and a very exciting opportunity. And again, he wrote that, but he said, "I'm now lecturing at QUT in criminology, but the students have never heard of the Fitzgerald inquiry." He said that was the biggest thing in Queensland law for years, but no one knows about it. So sometimes things that we think, so the negotiation guide talks about the pilot airstrike, that was in the 90s or the late 80s. Who knows about it? Only if you were around then. So, that's part of the whole reinvention. So what's current now is so different to what it was 10 or 15 years past and again up there. Yeah, so any other quick questions before we move on?